What's up, Earthrockers? It's your boy Shovatar here with the last of the JP Dracula's Curse videos. Let me just get this started here. So this is going to be kind of like the Sypha. I'm just going to turn the volume down real quick. Kind of like the Sypha second quest video, where this is a world record, but it's a world record in the category that literally nobody else has submitted any runs for ever. This is JP Second Quest, Trevor only, or Ralph only, as I call the JP videos, because he's Ralph in the Japanese version of the game. I'm not really sure why these categories... I mean, none of the Second Quest categories in this game are popular, because the game's just not very popular to run as a speed game, generally. I think people are generally more attracted to the first Castlevania game as a speedrun game, because it's way shorter, or to Simon's Quest, because there's just more... There's more stuff you can do in Simon's Quest. Dracula's Curse... Most of the crazy glitches you can do in Dracula's Curse are pretty much TAS only. But I'm sort of deviating very far from the actual video very early on, because there's not much to say about level 1, to be honest, if it's a JP Second Quest. Only that it's possible for things to go wrong in level 1 on Second Quest. That's what I always say about level 1 on Second Quest, because it's true. It's true for the JP version, it's more true for the US version. What's interesting about comparing a Ralph-only run in the JP version to a Trevor-only run in the US version is that they're honestly pretty similar. The biggest difference between the two of them is... I'm actually going to go back and talk about this because this is the first big change. So like I said in my last JP Second Quest video, one of the most common things that JP Second Quest will do is they will just double the rate of Medusa head spawns. Here it's very important for me to do this jump. This jump's important because I'm dodging the Medusa heads, but I do another jump right afterwards, so that way this Medusa head spawns in the right position that I can jump and then falling whip to kill it. So that's what that extra jump there is for. Almost everything that I do in one of these runs, almost every jump is like intentional or has like some kind of reason for it. It's very rare that I'll jump for no reason, because the jump is technically a time loss. You lose like a few tiny little frames every time you jump instead of just walking forward. Anyway, the biggest difference between a JP Ralph-only Second Quest run and a US Trevor-only Second Quest run is honestly the Cyclops, because the Cyclops boss fight creates demand for different sub-weapons. In the US version of the game, really the only way to efficiently kill the Cyclops is with holy water. In the JP version of the game, for various reasons that I'll explain when we get to the first Cyclops fight, the holy water is almost completely useless in fighting the Cyclops. It's just it has to do with the way the Cyclops behaves and what he can and can't do, and the way the arenas are set up in the different versions of the game. But I start off with holy water because it's the fastest way to kill this boss, and you can't get the cross, which is the best sub-weapon to fight the Cyclops with until the next level. And I want to go back real quick to talk about this stretch right here. So I said that every time you jump, you lose time. The reason I'm constantly jumping and throwing things here is because zombies, it doesn't come across in the footage, but at this stretch of 1-4, zombies spawn way closer to you in Second Quest than they do in First Quest. So this is just to avoid getting knocked back by random zombie spawns that I don't expect, because getting knocked back loses more time than just jumping would lose. And if you get knocked back once, it's easy to get knocked back again, because as you can see, you're also dealing with bat spawns coming at you, and the bat spawns can come at you from the right or the left. It's completely random. So just constantly jumping and throwing holy water there it's slower than it would just be to just react super fast to the zombies, but it's easier and it's a little bit safer, because it also means you don't get screwed over by bad bat spawns. So that's what I was doing there. Anyway, so yeah, the Cyclops is the biggest difference between the two versions, because in the US version of the game, the Cyclops can only be killed efficiently with holy water. In the JP version of the game, you would want the cross to kill the Cyclops. That's the fastest way to kill it, really. So that's what determines the routing for the two versions. Is in the US version of the game, because you have to fight the Cyclops 3 times if you're going on the Cypher route, and because you only have Trevor to fight the Cyclops with in a Trevor-only run or / Ralph-only run, you're stuck with holy water basically the whole time. In the JP version of the game, you're going to swap back and forth between the holy water and the cross, despite the fact that you are still fighting the same number of Cyclopses. It's still... the holy water is so good that there's a certain point in the JP routing where you still want the holy water, even though it means you're going to have a slow Cyclops kill. And that's going to be later in the run. I'll explain that when we get to that point. But for most of the mid-game, I'm going to have the cross. The cross is actually, the first place that the cross helps you is actually here on the Owl Gauntlet, which, unless you're playing on Grant or Alucard and you can just spam the stopwatch for this whole thing, the Owl Gauntlet is the first big potential point of failure for a run. It's probably not going to kill you in JP, because they don't do that much damage in JP, but it is the first place where you can really lose noticeable time, because if I mean, there it all worked out. They kind of gave me, I took a couple of hits, but they didn't give me any really terrible patterns, and I also played it a little bit slow and a little bit safe. But that's the first part of the run where things can really sort of, that's the first part of the run where you can say, like, okay, that was a good stage or a bad stage with the owls. Not like disastrous time loss, but enough that you notice it. And this is really interesting. This is routing that's only possible in the JP version of the game, again, because you take so little damage. And I'm just going to sort of play this back again. So yeah, I take a hit here intentionally, and then I take another intentional hit here from the fireball. And this just clears out all the fireballs in a way that's efficient. And then you can do this cool constant jump forward thing, because the turrets have so little health. And so I think I took 5 hits there, which in the US version of the game, if you're playing on Second Quest, 4 hits from anything kills you. But in the JP version of the game, damage depends on what source is dealing it, even on Second Quest. So that's why the Owl Gauntlet is a much less of a big deal. You can still lose time on it, but it's much less of a big deal on JP, because your health is just generally less important on JP. And it looks kind of scary to be running around with 1 health at any point in the game, but honestly, the rest of level 3 is not a part of the game that I'm anticipating losing any time on. And I'm actually not sure if I'm going to pick up... I haven't watched this footage since I first got it, which was a while ago now, so I don't remember actually if I dropped the cross for the dagger, because the first Cyclops, you want the cross for both for the mid-game Cyclops, and you would want the cross for the Cyclops generally. But for the first Cyclops specifically, it's viable to pick up the dagger because of a specific trick you can do. So I'll see if that's what happens here. I don't think so, just based on the fact that I picked up that double shot. I think I'm probably going to hold on to the cross. I'm holding on to the cross. Okay, that's what I thought. That good, because if I was wrong about that, then I would have been wrong about my whole, oh, you want the cross for the Cyclops spiel at the start of the video. So I'm guessing the reason I don't pick up the cross has to do with my routing through 4. I'm guessing that the cross is... Well, actually, the problem really is just that it's harder to... It's harder to... If I were to pick up the dagger here, it would be hard to have the triple shot cross again in time for the monster mash at the end of level 4. And as you can see here, the cross just sort of shreds the Cyclops. And the Cyclops is so slow and so non-aggressive in the JP version of the game that, like, it's pretty unusual for that fight to ever really go wrong. The only thing that can happen on the first Cyclops is the thing that can happen on every Cyclops, which is that he can charge you and not give you time to set up all these cross hits. But it's pretty unlikely for him to do that, in my experience, on level 3. He very rarely charges you. I don't know what makes the Cyclops decide to charge or not. I do know that it's random, and I don't know if he's more likely to do it in the later incarnations or not. But, yeah, that was a, completely normal level 3. I took a few more hits on the owls than I would have liked, but it was, really nothing to write home about that level 3. Not exceptional, and no real time loss. That's noteworthy. Now we get to level 4, which is very interesting on JP Second Quest, because US Second Quest, you're dealing with RNG skulls in certain areas. Here, you're dealing with ghosts. The game just throws a million ghosts at you, and on Second Quest, the ghosts are very scary because they're very fast. And I'm going to show you something here that's like... I'm just going to slow this down here because it's very fast and it's easy to miss. So this first ghost that spawns here is a major problem because he's very close to you and he has a ton of horizontal movement. But if you walk to the left just enough to get him to start moving towards the left, then like turn around right when you get past this seam, like right when you get to this torch, you can actually jump right over him, because as fast as they are, they won't immediately swap direction when you get to the other side of them. Like you can see I'm on the other side of him for a long time before he decides to change direction and start coming after me again. And I don't know what the exact threshold of time is on like how often they make that decision, but it's not instantaneous, and it gives you a chance to juke them, kind of, which is really the only way to get past this guy without picking up a stopwatch. And you don't want to pick up a stopwatch in the middle of level 4, even though the stopwatch would work. That's the thing about the stopwatch, is that the stopwatch is always functional. It's always a good, really consistent tool. But in the context of a speed run, if you're getting to a boss fight with a stopwatch, you're functionally getting to the boss fight with no sub-weapon, which means you're probably losing out on a lot of time. So here I do a series of very specifically timed cross throws to kill one of the 3 ghosts behind me, then I throw another cross to stun that ghost and get across the gap. And I don't know how, like, difficult this looks, but this was the hardest part of the whole run to route. Because the thing is that I wanted to be able to damage boost off of this ghost that spawns here to get across the gap, because whenever you can avoid going down a stairs, you want to do that, because stairs are really slow, and in the case of this particular stage, if you're going downstairs, you're going really slowly, and the ghosts are going to get really close to you. And because I'm going to have to go up another set of stairs later that's non-negotiable, I can't skip the later set of stairs. If they're already really close to you past this staircase, then by the time you get to the next staircase, they're liable to hit you, which is not what you want, because your health is actually pretty tight at this point. The damage that you take in JP is variable, but these ghosts will do 4 damage. And so the ghosts are the most common hazard in this part of the game, or in this stage, in this whole level, so you are basically dealing with like US second quest health values here. So I have to kill one ghost because the game won't spawn another ghost if there's 3 ghosts on the screen. So if I just let all 3 ghosts live and just move through the level like normally, then this ghost that I want to boost over to get over this gap won't spawn. So I needed to find a way to kill a ghost, but also not slow down too much. Because if I slowed down to kill one of the ghosts, then the other ghosts would get too close to me. And if I slowed down to kill all 3 ghosts, then I would just be going way too slow. So my solution was to do these very specific cross throws. One here on the torch, and then one as I jump off that pit. And as long as I time the rest of my jumps correctly, then this ghost in the middle should get hit by both crosses. Sometimes, if I don't jump at the right timing here, then that ghost will dip too far down and won't get hit by the second cross. But here you can see he like dips down a little bit, but then kind of dips back up. Let me see if I can get that to play back. You can't really see him dip down there. He doesn't go too down is the point. So even though that's really fast, it's actually extremely specific, and it's the result of a lot of testing. There's a lot of very particular timing and positioning things going on there. So this stage was one of the toughest to figure out of all of them for this game. And so now you can see I'm only dealing with 2 ghosts, and they're far away enough that I can throw across to kill them and not take any more hits. Very good. Another skeleton decided to spawn here. Don't know why. They just do that on JP Second Quest. And then the rest of this stage is going to be pretty normal. It's almost impossible. This part is really hard. It's hard to not take a hit here. And you don't want to take a hit here because your health is very tight in level 4. Because you're going to deal with a bunch of birds at the start of 4D. So, but like the way that the stages are set up it's just like impossible to not take a hit without really slow playing. And here it's just really hard not to take a hit in general, because you're jumping around dealing with this ghost while there's a bone soldier there's like a bone thrower dealing with you. Or trying to deal with you, I guess, on behalf of his master, Dracula. And there's nothing really to... The trick here is really just to, like... It's hard to explain because it's all just the result of a lot of trial and error, but basically you just slow the ghost down enough that he's just barely behind you, and this second throw is really important because if you throw... Like, you can see how close the ghost is to me before I start moving again. The first cross throw is easy because you're just doing it at the apex of your jump. With the second throw, it needs to be low enough that it hits the skeleton, but also not so low that you're literally on the ground when you start the throwing animation, because if you wait until you're on the ground to do the throwing animation, you'll get hit by the ghost. So, all that to say, level 4 is one of the biggest difficulty differences between first quest and second quest in arguably the entire game, especially in the context of a speedrun. If you're just playing like casually, you're just trying to 1cc, you're just trying to no hit, you're just trying to like, well, not no hit, but you're just trying to like no death, you can just like hyper slow play and it doesn't matter. But if you're trying to go for a good time, then finding ways to get through that part of the level without taking a million hits and without slowing down is really, really hard. And sometimes it just like doesn't work. Sometimes your positioning is just a little bit off and the ghosts like don't turn around. They turn around a little bit sooner than you expect them to, or they just aren't where you think they're going to be because of some tiny little deviation in your movement, and you just get fucked and it feels like it's not your fault. And it's not really, but I mean, it is technically. You control the buttons you press, as they say, but it's because there's very strict punishment for slightly different positioning if you're dealing with like ghosts that move that fast and that also seem to decide on an unclear timer when they're going to move back and forth. Nothing to say about the Medusa fight, so I actually should just... I'll just play it out again. You just stand there, throw spam crosses, and it just dies in 2 seconds. Pretty much exactly as fast as killing it with holy water would be, if not maybe a little bit faster. I don't actually know. Because the holy water, the other thing about the cross versus the holy water in the JP version of the game is that the holy water is nerfed in... Well, really, technically, it's buffed in US. It's, it does the same amount of damage in JP, but I think it just does it slower. That's what it seems like to me, based on my, my experience. Okay, so 4D is why the rest of the level is such a nightmare, because you're dealing with a bunch of birds here and then more birds later in the stage. This one is pretty fine as long as the birds, when you first encounter them, go down into the range of your cross throws. It's fine. The problem comes when they go too high. If they swoop like above where the cross's hitbox is and just fuck around elsewhere, then you really have to you have to either hope they fly into a subsequent cross throw or slow down and turn around to kill them. This is the most frustrating part of the entire level, because what I desperately want to do here is I want to jump here, like jump right here, and then jump and throw across to intercept that bird. And if I could do that, then the bird would die almost every time. The problem is that there's a torch there with an axe in it. So there's a torch with a subweapon in it that I don't want. At pretty much the exact pixel perfect position I would want to jump and throw across. So what I have to do instead is get the torch out of the way first, and then just stand here and hope that the bird gets into a good position to hit, to be hit with a cross. There it didn't, and I took the second throw to kill it. And I refer to the birds a lot as RNG, and they are, but they aren't. Nobody really knows how they work, and if your positioning does somewhat dictate how they behave, but you never know 100% what's going to happen with them. And it's also kind of like the ghosts, where tiny deviations in your position, whether you wait a couple frames to jump or not, seems to really change up what they decide to do. So it's possible if you were playing with like task level precision every time, then they would be perfectly predictable, but you know, that's just not the boat that I'm in. So to go back also, there's one more thing I want to point out, because while I was trying to figure out this particular area of the stage, because this is the toughest part, normally you would just, like I said, you would just jump and throw the cross and kill the bird, but that's not an option. If the bird picks the right swoop pattern, you can actually jump to the left here, up into that little corner between the two blocks. Let me go back. So right where the cross is, like the gap above that cross, if you jump up into that gap and get hit by a bird in the exact perfect timing, you will actually clip through the block and be up on the upper floor, which would save you a lot of time, because it means you're not going all the way over here, and you're not going all the way up the stairs, and you're not like killing this Dullahan, etc., etc. But the problem is that it requires the bird... The timing is very tight, and it requires the bird to do a specific thing. And if you're ever routing out this game and you think to yourself, oh, this will work fine, if the bird does a specific thing, you are setting yourself up to lose like half of your runs if you're depending on specific bird behavior. So I just wasn't going to go for that, especially considering the fact that that would add a third mandatory hit to a level where I'm already like... I already have less health than I want for what I want to do. So that was just not feasible to fit into the run, even though it is technically possible. And unfortunately, if this was first quest, then that would be more acceptable. But unfortunately, the birds aren't there on first quest, so you can't get that damage boost. So it's irrelevant. I don't know what I was thinking here. I don't know why I didn't just turn around and throw a cross at that bird. I had time to do it. I think my philosophy for that room was to just get through it as quickly as possible, because sometimes, like with the birds, you end up in a weird situation where the more you try to react to them and the more you try to hit them, you just end up wasting more time trying to hit them and not dealing with them and just like fucking yourself. So I think my idea there was just to get out of the room as fast as possible, but unfortunately I took another hit, which means that I can't do a thing that you will see people do in this room a lot, which is there's a ghost that's going to spawn here. What some people do, what I do in other Trevor only runs and other runs that go the Cypher route, is I'll jump off of this ledge here, get damage boosted off of the ghost and land on the opposite edge and then go up the stairs. But I just don't have enough health to do that. If I do that here, I'm going to die. So instead I just take a hit from the skeleton and then I get out of there. Which, like, this is... taking a hit here is bad because I'm getting knocked back, but again, I just don't really have a choice because the ghost is so fast that if I stand here and wait to kill the skeleton before it jumps at me, then the ghost is going to hit me and I die. So taking a hit from a bird, taking that hit from the bird back there actually kind of fucked me up and it kind of cost me time. So this is a bad level 4 as a result of that. If I can get to that level and do like the gap jump, then this is a good level 4, but because I didn't, it's a bad level 4. And again, it's just like, it's just unfortunate the way that they decided to assign the damage values, because both the birds and the ghosts do full 4 damage in JP if you're on second quest. So it just sucks that they gave the enemies that are the most dangerous and the most difficult to avoid on level 4 this like damage value that would be normal for US second quest, but that's high for JP second quest. So not a great level 4, but a pretty much, you know, a fine monster mash at least. The Cyclops didn't charge me. That's really the only thing that can go wrong there. It's very unusual for the Cyclops to charge me if I'm trying to set up that particular kill there. It's my favorite thing in the whole world. So I'm just going to explain this real quick. What people will do here a lot of the time is they will jump on a specific timing to get boosted forward by a fireball, and then run through this turret up here and then kill the other turret that's after it. I just hate doing that. I think the timing is way too tight to do it. I just hate getting through level 4, which is already a big potential point of failure, and then having to execute a really tight like positioning thing, and I'd rather just kill the turrets. Unfortunately in JP, turrets have 4 HP instead of 6 HP, so it's way less of a time loss to just take your time killing them than it would be on US. 5 on second quest is mostly unremarkable for the first 2 stages. The auto-scroller is basically identical. 5A is... The only difference is that they've doubled the gargoyle spawns, which isn't a huge deal if you got the cross, because the cross just rips through enemies so often. I'm surprised that I didn't... So obviously that dagger... I don't want the dagger here. The dagger drop was not what I wanted. But I'm surprised that I didn't pick up a cross back at the last room in there, because that room with the knight has a cross in it, but I must want the holy water here for some reason. Why do I want the holy water? This is an interesting little puzzle. I would think that I'd want the cross. Why do I want the holy water? Well, I'm glad that the auto-scroller is happening now, because I really have no, I have nothing else to do but ponder this question. I think it's because of sub-weapon drops. Because the thing is that really the cross and the holy water are pretty much as good as each other from this point in the game onward. Like basically from this point in level 5 through to the end of level 6. Once you get to level 7, you really want the holy water. But prior to this point, the cross and the holy water are about as good as each other. But the thing about the holy water is the holy water lets you sort of control random item drops. If you use holy water to kill something like a knight or a turret that has a lot of HP, then they seem to drop items basically every time. I don't know why. I don't know what the under the hood explanation for that is, but that is what happens. And in any Trevor only speedrun, whether it's JP or US, whether it's second quest or first quest, the number one biggest hazard, I'm going to pause here to explain this. The number one biggest hazard in the entire run, no exaggeration, is random subweapon drops. Because unlike Grant and Alucard, you can pick up every subweapon, so you're very unlikely to be in it's impossible to be in a situation where a subweapon drops and it turns into a heart. And you don't like accidentally pick it up. But accidentally picking up subweapons in a speed run, especially an optimized speed run or a semi-optimized speed run, is basically a death sentence. That's basically an immediate reset unless it happens at a very opportune moment like it happened there. Like there I accidentally got the dagger and it didn't really matter because I had an opportunity to get the holy water right afterwards. But if that had happened at a different point in the run, I would have had to instantly reset it. So what you can do with the holy water is you can cycle through subweapon drops, because it's not the which subweapon that gets dropped is random, but whether enemies drop an item at all or not is random. But the way it works is that for the first 4 item drops from an enemy, it'll be a small heart, and the 5th one will be a subweapon. So if you're keeping track of your drops for the whole run, which you need to do, then you can put yourself in a situation where it's like, I'm gonna throw holy water here to kill this turret, because I know I'm on the 5th, like this will be the 5th drop. I can kill this turret like this, and I'll know it's a subweapon, so I'll know preemptively to jump over the subweapon that it drops, so that way it doesn't fuck me over later. And that's something you pretty much have to do throughout the entire run, because the alternative is either putting your fate in the hands of RNG and hoping you just don't get a subweapon drop at a bad time, or super, super, super slow playing, which, if you're speedrunning, is pointless, because that's not what a speedrun is. So it doesn't seem like it would be such a problem. Like random subweapon drops are a mechanic that's like completely irrelevant in normal gameplay. But in a speedrun, especially a Trevor only speedrun, it is bar none the number one biggest problem in the entire run. I would say, without hyperbole, that random subweapon drops have probably accounted for something like 80 to 90% of all of my resets in Trevor only speedruns. And I'm not kidding. And that's why keeping track of your item drops is so important. Just having a running tally in your head. Okay, I'm on 1, I'm on 2, I'm on 3, I'm on 4. So that's why the holy water is important to get, because it lets you kind of control that. Even though you do want the cross for the early game because of the 2 Cyclops fights. So I think now the reason I wanted the holy water here was specifically because the holy water can sometimes kill this bird. If you try to throw a cross here, I think it hits the fuzzball and like, yeah, okay, now I remember. So if you throw the cross, so the cross can be good on 6, but the holy water is pretty much just as good. And the problem really is this bird. Because if I were to throw a cross here to hit this bird, or try to hit this bird, the cross would hit that fuzzball going along the platform here and basically make me have to wait longer for it to move, which would put me in a position where the bird is way more likely to hit me. But if I come to this part of the run with holy water, first of all, I have a greater chance of actually hitting the bird on this jump, because the holy water like goes up in an arc a little bit, I think, in a way that the cross doesn't. I'm not 100% sure on that. But it doesn't disrupt the timing on the fuzzball, and that's really the important part. So that's what that's about. And it's probably still faster to kill Frankenstein with the holy water than it is with the cross, although it's probably not that big of a difference. Actually, that does look kind of a bit like kind of a big difference. Okay. So I guess you probably wouldn't want the cross here. I guess you really only want the cross for the first 2 Cyclops fights, and then after that's over, you can just pick up the holy water and hold on to that for the rest of the game. Okay, although actually no, I'm not going to hold. I'm going to pick up the stopwatch briefly at the end of 6. I'm pretty sure. But then after that, it's just going to be back to the holy water again. So, like I said, sometimes I go back and forth with like, should I watch this footage before doing the commentary? And sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. It has its pros and cons. The pros is that if I watch it before I do the commentary, then it like jogs my memory, and I can I don't get caught off guard by things, but it's also nice in the vein of like I'm kind of it's more entertaining for me to be surprised by the footage in real time and to sort of like give more emotional reactions to things. It's more fun for me, I guess. It's worse for the quality of the commentary because it means I sound a little bit scatterbrained and sometimes I contradict myself, but it's more entertaining for me. So level 6, I'm just gonna stop for a second here. Level 6 is the biggest pain in the ass in the whole game, except for level 4. I'd say 4, 6, and 9 are the big problem areas. That's pretty much always the case in every Cypher route run. It's always 4, 6, and 9. For second quest, at least. 4 is kind of a snooze fest on first quest. Anyway, that was a pretty good 6B. As you can probably tell, in 6B, you're dealing with 2 giant problems. You're dealing with birds flying around, doing whatever the fuck they want, and you're dealing with random fishman spawns, which spawn more frequently in second quest than in the first quest. And this went pretty well, only taking 1 hit, and like somehow miraculously hitting this bird with this holy water. This is so funny, watch this. So I throw this holy water, and the bird barely goes over my head and hits the holy water instead of hitting me, which is pretty funny. And I clear a sub-weapon drop. That fishman drops a dagger, so now I'm not worried about sub-weapons throughout the rest of level 6, which is good because most of this next stage is just going to be turrets and knights, who, if you're trying to who you want to kill with holy water, because otherwise they take a million years to die. But like I just said, the caveat with killing things with holy water is that if you kill something with holy water, they're pretty much guaranteed to drop an item, which means every time you kill something with holy water, you're upping your item count and you're getting closer to the next sub-weapon, which again is fine as long as you're prepared for it. But it does mean that you can look at that, another sub-weapon drop already. But it does mean that you can sometimes end up in situations where you're on 5, but you can't like slow down. That happens sometimes. So I pick up the stopwatch, I take a couple of intentional hits to just get through this part without having to kill anything. And I'm pretty much good. That's honestly the hard part of the the level. The rest of the level is pretty easy. And I don't think I have much. 6C is really hard, actually. This particular room is tricky, and it's not. This first part is pretty normal. The only thing that really, the problem really here is the fact that the bat that spawns in 6C is the bat spawns more aggressively, more frequently than it does in first quest, and it keeps spawning further into the room. Like on first quest, that bat that spawns here would not spawn at all. But here it does, so you have to sort of, and you don't know if it's going to spawn from the right or the left, so you kind of have to improvise. And also, this second holy water throw here that, like, barely hits that lower axe, like, it's pretty much, like, that looks like it's 1 frame away from hitting me or something. It's pretty damn close. That's a really specific timing. I don't really remember what my cue for it was. I guess it must have been, like, when do I hit B? I guess so that the arc of it, that upper or most arc of it lines up right with that torch. I don't know, but it's really close. But the reason it's so close is because you don't know if the bat's going to come from the right or the left, and you don't know if the axe knight is going to throw high or low. And because you don't know if the axe knight is going to throw high or low, you have to throw holy water in a specific position such that it can hit either the high axe or the low axe. So it's really close if it's the low axe, unfortunately. Here I just take another hit because I have enough health. Kill the turret. Did I desync the audio? I might have. I know there's a little bit audio desync last time. I don't know why that's happening. It has something to do with this video player I'm using. Hopefully it doesn't matter. Anyway, and then this is pretty self-explanatory. Just getting damage boosted through. Otherwise, you would have to whittle through a lot of health with just the whip. And the reason I'm forsaking the holy water for the stopwatch here is because, like on 6B, on 6D, on second quest, the spawn rate of the fishmen is increased. And more importantly, they spawn way closer to you. So if you just walk forward trying to play the game like normal and try to like jump and do falling whips in response to their spawns, you're going to be too late and they're going to hit you. So taking the stopwatch there just makes that way easier. And fortunately, the Hydra in the JP version of the game is always predictable. He always has the same patterns every time. So it's not a huge deal to trade out the holy water for the axe. It is still way slower. It means you have to 2-cycle the Hydra instead of 1-cycling the Hydra. But, you know, that, in my opinion, is worth the time you save and the headaches you save from keeping the stopwatch through 6D. It's probably slower. I don't know. It depends. Because if you kill fishmen that are spawning in front of you in 6D, and then they just keep spawning new ones in front of you, then you can just waste a lot of time like whipping through them over and over and over and over again. So I don't honestly know if it's like the fastest option or not, but I know for sure that it's the less stressful one. And those are always the three things that I think about when I route these games is it faster, is it easier, or is it cooler? And this one is faster and cooler, but not easier than going through this area normally. The specific visual cue that I'm looking for here is I'm waiting for the yellow border, topmost border of this platform to reach the seam, to reach like the lowermost line of that block that's behind it. So if you want to pull this off, like I remember I saw this first in the first quest world record run by Ohan, and I remember thinking that this was going to be like impossible, and it's pretty hard. Like this is still definitely a potential point of failure, but it's not as hard as it looks. And if you just practice that, I mean, what's so nice about it is that that platform is always going to be in the same place every time, and you just always and the turret's fireballs are basically never going to interfere with your ability to make this jump, so it's always the same. That's really what's important. If something is always completely 100% consistent, then even if it's literally frame perfect, which I don't think that is, even if it's literally frame perfect or like a handful of frames perfect, then like if you practice it enough, you'll get it. That's what I've learned by making all these videos and doing all these runs and trying to like push myself, is like if it's always the same, if the positioning is always the same, if you just have to do the same thing every time, like it's really not that hard. It's only difficult if there's some factor that causes variation. This part is a huge pain in the ass, but I do something cool here by complete accident. I damage boost off of that fireball and get up these stairs a little bit faster than I otherwise would have. I don't stop and kill that turret. And what happened here was I basically I miscounted my item drops. I thought that this turret right here was going to drop a sub-weapon, and instead, which I don't want, and instead dropped a triple shot, which I do want. But because I was going to drop a sub-weapon, I just jumped over it like on instinct. Then I'm like, oh shit, that's the triple shot that I want. So I real quick turned around and grabbed it, and then tried to jump, I guess, to, I don't really know what my plan was here. I think my plan was to try to jump over the first fireball that got shot, but instead I barely clipped the back of it, and got to walk through the turret and made it up here. So that was a complete accident, not part of the plan at all, but it really worked out. And I also want to talk about this spot here with the two knights, because this is like, the second knight is fine, but this first knight is such a fucking nightmare. And that's why I slow down here and I specifically wait for him to throw this axe, because I cannot tell you how many times this guy has thrown a low axe and I've jumped thinking I'm going to jump over it or thinking I'm going to intercept it with the holy water, only for the holy water, only to like either get barely clipped by the axe or for the holy water to hit the knight after he's already thrown the axe, so that he's getting stun locked, but at that point the axe has already been thrown and I get hit by it. So I just fucking wait. I don't even try. I just wait till he throws it, intercept it, and then go through the rest. Like that. And that's, you know, the problem really there. This is what I was talking about before with variation. The problem is that the positioning of those two knights, especially the second knight, can sometimes be pretty different. So you don't always know how exactly you want to, where exactly you want to jump and when exactly you want to throw the holy water. And it's important because you do want hearts before the monster mash. You want, like, you don't have that many, you don't have that much wiggle room in terms of hearts for the monster mash. You definitely, you do on JP more so than US, because I'm not going to use any holy water to kill the Cyclops, but you're still a little bit worried about your hearts there. So you really want to get both of those 5 heart drops near the Axe Knights, and that's really what the problem is. If the only objective was just get past the Axe Knights, then it's like, okay, but having to get past the Axe Knights and also work in a jump somewhere to get to that torch with the 5 hearts is harder than it sounds and harder than it looks. So that's why that part is such a big problem. It's not because it's super complicated, it's just the fact that sometimes it's different. Sometimes the knights are in different places. Now it's the level 7 Monster Mash. The first two bosses are going to be pretty unremarkable. And then the last boss is very interesting. Okay, I actually have way more hearts than I need here. I think I only need about 12. Maybe fewer than that for what I want to do for the devil. I think maybe it's more like 9. I don't remember. This is super slow, but unfortunately there's no way to, like, do this better. So I should actually explain, by the way, why holy water doesn't work on the Cyclopses here. So let me go back to where the arena is at the start. So in the US version of the game, if the Cyclops charges a platform, then it will phase through the blocks and its head will stick out the top of it. So what you do in the US version of the game is you bait a charge and then you throw holy water on top of the blocks so that while the Cyclops is charging through the blocks and then walking back out of them, he's taking mondo damage from holy water ticks. But in the JP version of the game, if they hit blocks, if the Cyclops charges into blocks or charges into a platform, he won't go through the blocks at all. He'll just stop dead right short of the blocks and then turn around and walk back around again. So you can't do anything with the holy water and the Cyclopses on the JP version of the game. You have to either use the cross or here, because I need the holy water specifically to do a fast kill here on the devil, which doesn't save that much time, but it actually this does save a lot of time here. This is really good for this to happen, and I didn't really know this was possible. So the problem with the devil in the JP version of the game is that he has a million health like the US devil, but he doesn't spend as much time on the ground. His jumps are more frequent, so you don't have as much of a window of time to burn through his health with holy water. So I throw 3 holy water shots, like sort of preemptively, just as he's coming out, to make sure that he's taking like as much turn as possible. Then I throw 3 more, so that way he's landing while they're still ticking, which both delays him for a little while, it stops him from doing more jumps, and it just does more damage. And I mentioned something briefly a long time ago at the start of this commentary, which is that the holy water in the JP version of the game does do the same amount of damage as the US holy water, but it does it over a longer period of time. So if you want to kill the devil before he does his 4th jump, because the 4th jump is a long jump where he hovers up in the air, so it wastes more time, so you want to kill him before that jump. But if you want to do that, you have to... It's so hard to get the maximum damage value out of the holy waters because they're going to waste so much of their damage burning on nothing, because it takes them so long to finish burning and finish doing all their damage. So that's why I do kind of like weird preemptive holy water throws while he's up in the air, and this is all very specific and very very practiced. Like specifically, that's why I only move back once. I start off in a position where I can hit him from here with like 3 good holy water throws, throw 3 more from the same position so that way he lands on them, and then I back up into the corner here, and I'm standing in a very specific spot here where I need to be close enough to him that these holy water throws hit, but not so close that he hits me on his like jump down, which is pretty close, as you can see, and his hitbox is bigger than it looks. So this is actually even closer than it looks, and it already looks like closer than I would personally like. And I only move once because every second you spend moving instead of either whipping him or setting up more holy water throws is lost potential time spent damaging him, and you need to spend as much time as you possibly can damaging him if you want to kill him in those 3 jumps. So it only takes about like 10 seconds, 8-9 seconds to do this fight. Okay, about 8 seconds, but it's all very specific, and it's all very hard, and it's all very tight. And if you miss like a single whip throw, or you don't get in the right position to throw holy water without having to move, then you're not going to get it. And to be honest, it's not the end of the world. Like, I wouldn't reset if I didn't get that, because if he dies on the 4th jump, then he dies up on that platform, which there's a funny quirk of the... I guess I'll just explain this real quick. I'm kind of taking more time on this than I want, but I'll do this real fast. So you might notice that the orb doesn't actually spawn at the end of the Monster Mash until after all the fragments of this ghost thing disappear. But if the demon dies above the platform, so the platform right to the left of where the ghost is now, if the demon dies there, the ghost a lot of the ghost fragments hit the platform and disappear. So you're really only waiting for like the 3 ghost fragments that are already close to the edge of the screen on the top left to disappear. So if the demon had died up on that platform, then the orb would start spawning now instead of now, which is, you know, not a lot of time, probably still slower than killing him on the 3rd jump, but it does mean that if you don't kill him on the 3 jumps, then you get a little like consolation prize. It's like, okay, you lost time, you didn't lose that much time. It's just a funny little quirk, and it's a perfect example of the kind of thing you would never notice or think about in the game if you weren't speedrunning. And that's kind of my love-hate relationship that I have with speedrunning. I love how it makes you think about the game differently, and I definitely love how it feels to do a really good speedrun. But sometimes it's annoying that these incidental mechanics in the game can influence your success or failure when otherwise they would be completely irrelevant. And sub-weapon drops are the perfect example of that. I probably knew that was going to happen. I kind of looked like I was playing carefully there. I must have suspected that I was... Either I knew I was on 5 or I thought I was on 5. So, good for me. Excuse me. Speaking of good or bad, I mentioned in my Alucard route video that I don't think that run is very good. I think this one's pretty good. I think there's very, very little in the way of major time loss in this particular run. It could definitely still be faster. Probably on the Hydra specifically, I'm guessing. Maybe if there's a way to deal with those fishmen without picking up the stopwatch, that would be one thing. But like, just sitting here watching this, I'm not really seeing any big time loss. 7 went pretty much on schedule. I got an accidental time gain on 7 because of jumping off that fireball. So this is all going pretty much according to plan. I didn't have a specific goal time for this. I knew sub 30 was going to be possible, and I knew I could go pretty far under sub 30 probably, but I didn't know how far. Because as I mentioned in previous videos, I don't play with splits, so I don't always know like what my time is going to be until it happens, and I don't know what time to go for exactly until I've finished at least one successful run, and then I kind of evaluate that, and I'm like, okay, is that good enough, or do I think I can do better? Or is that like close to some minute barrier that I think I can break? It's arbitrary, but that does influence my decisions sometimes. Nothing at all to say about the Grim Reaper fight, nothing at all to say about level 8. Except that it's very good that level 8 is full of knights, because I really cannot go into 9-1 on 5. Or on like... If the next drop that happens is going to be a sub-weapon, that's really bad. Because some parts in the game I can slow play, some parts in the game I can play around a sub-weapon drop. If it's like a turret or a knight, if I can get it to happen deliberately. But with 9-1... I can't force a drop from any of these gremlins, and I can't slow down. And it's not just a can't slow down because I'm speedrunning and I don't want to slow play, it's a can't slow down because if I slow down here, it's going to influence the pattern of their spawns and where they choose to spawn, and it's going to become unpredictable. So it's not just about, like, you don't want to slow play just for the sake of not slow playing, it's you don't want to slow play because if you do, then it's going to change where they spawn and you're not going to be ready for it anymore, which means you're going to probably like take hits or have to slow play even more and lose even more time. So getting to 9-1 if you're on your 5th sub-weapon, if you're on your 5th item drop, if you have a sub-weapon drop like scheduled up next, is like, it's the worst case scenario. So that's the most important thing about level 8. Level 8's pretty hard. It's hard to mess anything up mechanically in level 8, but it's very important that you get out of a level 8 and you're not on 4. You'd pretty much, ideally you would get a sub-weapon drop right before 9-1, but sometimes that's just not what happens. You need to take a drink of water. Oh. I'm wearing out my voice. I didn't expect to talk this much about this run. I think I'm, probably because I'm caffeinated. I'm going to go back, because 9-2 is always cool, always fun to talk about. In the Japanese version of the game, the turrets have inconsistent firing patterns. You never know when exactly they're going to fire. And the gargoyle spawns have been doubled compared to First Quest. But this looks pretty good so far. I pretty much plan to take the first hit from the turret every time, and I plan to take the second hit. So I think that was pretty much exactly according to plan. I think that was completely on script there. So actually don't have much to say about 9-2 there. I guess I'll just explain. The reason why I deliberately take a hit at the end is because it's easy to, if I have the health to do it, like I can take 2 hits here and it's not a big deal. So if I've got to this part of the stage with only 1 hit, then like, instead of fucking around trying to stop and whip fireballs, it makes more sense to just take the hit and go, because the double gargoyle spawns means that if you stop to whip something, then you are going to get another gargoyle spawn. And by the time that gargoyle spawns in, you might be in a position where it could be coming at you from an angle where if you whip to intercept it, you're not going to hit it, and you can't get out of the way in time. So the easiest way to deal with that problem is to just take a hit at the end, so that way you have hit stun all the way through the last half of that staircase, and you can just get out of the stage clean. And if you have the health to take an intentional hit to avoid a potential point of failure like that, then you absolutely should do it. That's the one thing. I like no-hit runs a lot, but what's cool is that but when you can incorporate damage then into your run, then it creates a whole new dimension of strategic thinking that's not present in a no-hit run. In a no-hit run, the decision is made for you. You can't take a hit. It's not an option. And sometimes that can lead to its own really interesting routing solutions, but it also means that's just never an option that's available to you, is to intentionally damage boost or intentionally take a hit just to make something more consistent. Anyway, it's the 9-3 auto-scroller. It's the minute-long cutscene lunch break between the RNG nightmares of 9-2 and 9-4, and 9-2 is much less of a nightmare than 9-4. They both can be total nightmares, because that 9-2 is super smooth, but there's a million ways that can go wrong. If the turret fires on a weird timing, if the gargoyle, if you're not like on the pace that you expect to be on, and the gargoyle's in like a weird spot, if you just mess up the timing slightly on a whip, stuff can go wrong on 9-2 all the time. And stuff can also always go wrong on 9-4 as well, because you're dealing with birds and you're dealing with fishman spawns that are not completely random. They're random in the sense of you don't know if they're going to come at you from the right or the left, which is like random enough in a situation like this. This is pretty fucking great though. Like, this is honestly a god tier 9-4 what I'm looking at right now. And the last two birds just fuck off and leave me alone. All right. That was fucking great. And that was, I consider 9-4 to be a level where, actually I'm going to go back a little bit and kind of break this down, because this is super important. And if anybody's watching this to try to get advice on how to do this stage, this is like probably the stage you would want advice on the most. The trick is to sort of like, you need to, if you're doing a speedrun, you have to balance between playing safe and playing, you have to balance between playing fast and playing smart. And a lot of that boils down to the birds. Sometimes the birds will fuck around up in the sky for 100 years, and you need to, because if the solution is just sit and wait for the birds, you could be waiting for a long time. So it's important to watch them and watch what they're doing and react to that. Like here, if a bird is going that low, then that means that his next swoop is going to be either right towards me or right along the same axis. He's not going to go back up into the air again. So I knew that he was going to come at me after with the next swoop, or at least be at the right height to get hit by the holy water. The second one, this one just worked out really well. Like I was jumping, I happened to be jumping when he decided to swoop, so his swoop didn't go all the way down to the floor, it stayed pretty high, and then he set himself up for the next one low and in the same exact spot as another bird. So that was almost literally 2 birds with 1 stone. It was 2 birds with 1 holy water, but it was almost literally 2 birds with 1 stone. And then this last one, there's a cool thing you can do here. If this bird doesn't immediately hit you, if you throw a holy water right here, then the fire will like fill up the block, and the hitbox on the fire is big enough to protect you from the bird. So here, even though the bird flies right at me, it hits the fire first and it immediately dies. So that was a combination of good luck. This is really good luck too, by the way. The fact that both of these guys fuck off and leave, which is totally random. You can't make them do that, as far as I know. That was a combination of really good luck and also just playing intelligently and playing correctly and playing attentively. But you can't relax is the thing, because like you'll notice how this Medusa head here drops a heart. I have legitimately lost runs to this last Medusa head dropping a sub weapon. Like this Medusa head just dropping a dagger and I just walk into it at the last second. And it's like, you can't ever fucking relax when you're dealing with sub-weapon drops. And you want the holy water because the doppelganger is hard. And I actually almost fucked myself there. I don't think I would have... I don't remember what the strategy here was. I think... Okay, I see what I did wrong. So the plan is you throw holy water so that it hits the corner here, the leftmost corner. And ideally, he would spawn in and start getting hit by the fire. That didn't actually happen. It's much easier to make that happen in the US version of the game just because the way this middle platform is just structured differently in the US, and it's easier for the doppelganger to get hit on that corner. Didn't happen here. Instead, he damaged me. And the thing about the doppelganger that's really interesting is that everything in the JP version of the game does variable damage, but the doppelganger does more damage than anything else in the whole game. Contact damage with the Alucard doppelganger or the Trevor doppelganger will do 5 damage to you, which, as you know, like I just said, that's more than anything else in the whole game. So that's why my health looks really good. I'm on 10 HP, which should be a lot, especially in JP, but then suddenly I'm at 5. So if I were to take one more bit of contact damage, I would actually have died there, but that was never going to happen. Sometimes he can break out of a holy water stun and whip you, but usually that's not the case if you have the triple shot. If you have the triple shot holy water here, then as long as you have enough health to take an initial hit from the doppelganger, you're pretty much guaranteed to be fine. So that looked that was scary. That's definitely not what you want to have happen towards the end of a run, but it wasn't as scary as it felt for me at the time, that's for sure. And then here I grab the axe, go down the steps. And this is also a slight deviation from how I structure the sub-weapons in the US version of this run. Nothing to say about the A1 autoscroller. The A1 autoscroller is it's like a cutscene in JP. It's like you just stay to the top of the screen and try to get the Medusa heads to despawn so that way they don't lag the game. That's all it's about. It's just about lag reduction. It's not even about survival. It's not about health. It's just about lag reduction. So what I do in the US version of the game when I get to level A on Trevor is I try to set up a triple shot axe before Dracula. But in the JP version of the game, I'm okay with a double shot. Excuse me. I'm okay with a double shot because of phase 1 of Dracula. That was pretty much fine. I don't think there's anything to say really about getting around those turrets. That was pretty much exactly what I wanted. But yeah, so a double shot is a double shot is also okay in the US version of the game if you want to one cycle phase 1 of Dracula, but it's harder. If you get to Dracula in the US version of the game with a triple shot axe, then one cycling phase 1 is super, super easy. But in the JP version of the game, I don't think it's actually possible to one cycle phase 1 of Dracula without a triple shot cross. So if you have the axe, which is what you need to fight phase 3, then you're gonna get a 2-cycle phase 1 of Dracula no matter what, whether you have a double shot axe or a triple shot axe. So that's why I don't worry about getting the triple shot here. I'm totally fine with the double shot because phase 3 and phase 2 are pretty much the same both ways. Phase 1 is the only phase where the triple shot axe could make a difference, but it can only make a difference on US. On JP, you're going to kill him in the middle of the room, and you're going to start phase 2 in the middle of the room. There's nothing you can do about it. I do know that I think that the other versions of this... I think there's probably an argument to be made for bringing the cross, for fighting Dracula with the cross being faster. But the problem is that there's no good way to really set up a triple shot cross if you're trying to kill the doppelganger with a triple shot holy water, which is what you should be doing. Absolutely beautiful. So I honestly don't have much to say about these Dracula fights, other than I guess I'll just point out that the only thing that can go you want a 2-cycle phase 1, but you need to do a lot of damage. And this is like probably the trickiest part of all 3 of these phases is setting up these first two axe throws so that they hit him right as he's getting out of the chair. Because he gets out of the chair pretty fast in JP. In US, he kind of waits for a second, but in JP, he gets out of the chair pretty fast. So you need both axes to be in the air, like while he's standing up, which is a pretty close timing. The visual cue that I use for this is this second seam. The second seam after the window, basically. There's the seam that's right under the corner of the window, and then my cue to jump and throw is the seam after that one between blocks. And if you ever want to get into speedrunning, stuff like that, visual cues, marks is like extremely important. Incorporate them everywhere you possibly can. They will save you a lot of headaches because consistency is always the name of the game. And then once I've hit those two axes, the rest of it's like pretty easy. I'm not going to screw this up. So I get out of it's a 2-cycle, and it's a pretty speedy 2-cycle there. Not much to say about phase 2 of Dracula. What's nice about the JP version of the game is that number one, Dracula does pathetic damage. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but when I took a hit here from this fire pillar, I took 2 damage. And then here I jump into the giant evil organ monster and I take another 2 damage, or I take 3 damage or something. Yeah. So it's like, which is like pathetic. In the US, everything does 4 damage on second quest. And that's like one pet peeve that I have about the JP version of the game is that I'm annoyed that Dracula doesn't do more damage, because I feel like if he's the final boss, he should just like wreck you. But nothing much to say about like strategy for the second phase, except that you want to try to get to Dracula with at least 14 hearts. And there's a couple of different ways to do phase 3, but for me the easiest way to do it is just sit here on the right side the whole time. You can either sit on the right side or go back to the left side to bait lasers downwards, but I prefer to just stay on the right side the whole time and then just jump over this laser to do the last hits, which is a little bit nerve-wracking, but it means you don't have to do any like fast like turnarounds, which is what you would have to do if you were to try to jump across the pit, like jump back across the pit. You have to do like a fast turnaround and then get back to throwing axes. And sometimes that can be a potential point of failure. Cause like, especially at the end of a run like this, it's very punishing to have this fight at the very end of a speed run, because there's giant consequences if you fuck this up. If you miss the 1 cycle, it's like 12 seconds time loss, and it's at the very end of the run, and there's very little room for error. But as is so often the case, there's more room for error in JP than there is for US. So that is what's nice. In the US version of the game, you can also sit here on the right side of the Dracula fight, but you need another health. You need extra health to be able to do that, because you would have to take a hit at the end to make that work. But I'm gonna have to wait until I do US second quest, Trevor, to explain that. But generally the way this fight works is you hit him like 6. I should just explain this first before I talk about the variations. The way the fight works generally is you hit him on the left side here. You do your 6th hit while you're jumping across, and then you do 3 more hits here. Then on the 4th hit, and then you wait until this laser gets baited to shoot straight downwards. Then you can either jump across with the 4th hit, or you can stay in place and do the 4th hit. Here I just stay in place and I do the rest of the hits like this. Jump over the laser, and then 2 whip swings, and he's done. And it's pretty close, actually. Wow, yeah, 3 frames off. That's pretty scary, actually. That's probably why people don't do that, because it's probably closer timing. But it feels easier for me, because the fewer times I have to do that jump across the pit and then turn around to like keep throwing axes, I just find it like easier. Because when the pressure is on and you've got this big potential point of failure at the very, very end of the run, what the fuck happened there? That's funny. Bunch of weird... Oh my god. Look at that. I never noticed this before. That's pretty funny. Oh, one last thing to mention about the JP version of the game. The phase 3 of Dracula has a glitched tile. If you look at the top of his right wing there, it's easier to see like this. If you look at his right wing there, there's a little square on it. That's just a mistake. It's not supposed to be there at all. But yeah, like I was saying, when the pressure is on at the very end of a tough run like that, at the very end of a run, like doing those funny little precise movements Like going left and then quick going right and then quick doing up and B and jumping again can be hard. Because like I can't tell you how many times I've lost runs to the phase 3 of Dracula because my hands were literally shaking too badly to like even like operate the keyboard. Like that shit actually really happens. When you see speedrunners who run with like heart rate monitors and it's going up to like 150, that's not like that's like that really happens. Like that's not a joke. Um and it's because you know how much time you've sunk into it, and also if you're at the end of a good run, you know how much time it took you and how tough it was for you to get the run that was that good. So for you to be in a situation where it's like everything's on the line right here, if I even slow down by like that, like just now, if I was 3 frames slower or 4 frames slower on that Dracula kill, I would have missed the one cycle. So like that's where your knowledge fucks you up because you both know how hard it was to get there and you know how easy it is to screw up, and that's a perfect recipe for being really, really stressed and really like amped up. So that's why I like the easier one cycles on phase 3 of Dracula if I can get them, because I know I'm going to be nervous and I know the pressure's going to be on and I know I'm going to be at a much higher risk for mechanical failure than I otherwise would. So even if on paper it's riskier because there's less of a margin for error, in practice it's safer because the inputs themselves are literally easier to do, especially under pressure. That's just my opinion. And that's the Trevor only run. I'm really happy with this run, 29-22. Probably could go lower. I think if somebody was an absolute god at this game, if you played super, super well, I bet you could probably take this under 29 seconds, but I don't, or under 29, not under 29 seconds, nobody's that good. Under 29 minutes, but I don't know what exactly you would have to do to make that happen. But my gut tells me that it's definitely possible. Because the first quest world record is just under 29 minutes, and in second quest you save a little bit of time because you don't have to deal with the Sypha cutscene at the end of level 3. So on paper, I feel like there should be ways to make second quest faster than first quest, but I don't know what exactly the path towards that would be. I'm fine with this. I'm completely satisfied with this run. This was a lot of fun to do. The JP version of the game used to be my favorite. I used to like the JP version better than the US version. I've kind of changed my opinion on that, and I've come around to liking the US version better, although I do think it's very close. I think they're both absolute god tier games, and I don't think that the differences between them amount to like a big difference. Like if I think the US version of the game is number one, like if the US version of the game is right here, like the JP version's like right here, like 1 millimeter away from it. So it's still super close, even though I do think the US version's a little bit better. Anyway, that's the last of the JP Dracula's Curse videos. Starting next weekend, I'm going to be posting the US version videos. And I'm glad you guys are sticking around. I'm glad you guys are watching the new videos. Um, and until another one of those new videos comes out, keep on Earth rocking.